Hello and welcome. You are watching Property Hotline with me, Kavita Krishnan. We are joined by Mudassir Zaidi today. He's a managing partner at SNZ Business Essentials. He'll be answering all your questions related to buying, selling, or investing in real estate. Mudassir, welcome to the show. So Mudassir, let's get started. We have a question that's come in on email. Amitabh Singhal has written in. Now he says that he owns a 1,695 square feet apartment in Parasti area in sector 137 in Noida. Now he booked this in 2010, got possession in May 2016. He wants to know what is the current rate of this property, how much appreciation can he expect? Mudassir, what would you say? He's waited 6 long years for that property, finally got possession.
See, my sense is that most of the flats have just got about delivered now. So in the last, as you said, it's May 2016 onwards. There's a lot of supply in the market at the moment from a lot of investors. However, the sector is a good one. It is right next to the Greater Noida Expressway. The current metro line is being built and it is fast progressing. The overall sector is getting stabilized, not just Parastiera, but various other projects from Supertech and a few other developers are getting delivered currently at the moment and in the next year or two. And plus there are a lot of commercial properties that are coming up around this particular sector and around within the sector and around the sector. Plus across the expressway on the other side, there is decent commercial activity. So in my opinion, the overall prospects of this sector, of this particular property are quite good. Currently, on a resale basis, the prices going on, flats are being quoted in the range of 5,500 to 6,000 rupees a square feet. But realistically, deals will only happen, around 5,000 or slightly below that. My suggestion to Amitabh would be to hold on if he really wants great appreciation. In the next couple of years, I think when the market starts turning around, plus this sector is now stabilizing, plus due to the infrastructure coming up, social infrastructure as well as office, plus the metro, I think there is decent further appreciation that can be expected here.
Amitabh, enough reasons for you to hold on over there and look at the chart. If those reasons are not enough, if the fact of infrastructure coming up which will boost property prices, if your social infrastructure that is coming in, the commercial space that is coming in over here, if all of that is not reason enough, then this chart should tell you what you should do. This is the reason why specifically you need to hold on to that property. Prices are trending, averaging around 5,319 rupees per square foot. They've gone down in the last 1 year by about 3%. The market has been flat, like you can see. And like Mudassir just told us, there's a lot of supply in the market right now. Hold on for another couple of years. You will see the market turn. You should see prices go up, especially for property that is as well located as the one that you have bought into. Darshan Dedia has now called in from Hyderabad. Darshan, how can we help you?
Good evening, Kavita and Mudassir. My query is pertaining to investment options in Hyderabad. I'm contemplating between a residential property that is Prestige Ivy League 3 BHK, which is 1.2 crore. I think the position will be in 2019 January. And the other option is a commercial project, Purvankara Summit. It's again 1,200 square feet of undivided share in a grade A office. Now, both of these projects are bank approved, and I'm looking at both of these options from an investment perspective. So, I would like to get your opinion on that. Thank you.
Okay, from an investment perspective, should he go for residential or commercial property in Hyderabad at the moment? What would you recommend, Mudassir?
Between the two, both developers are good. Prestige is a graded developer. Purvankara is a graded developer as well. However, between commercial and residential, at the moment, I would prefer commercial. In the last couple of years, commercial has had a good run, decent run. in terms of leasing levels as well as in terms of appreciation levels. I expect that to continue. The business confidence is strong. We are hoping that the leasing levels in the market will continue to be strong in the future as well, which will basically support developers who are building commercial projects. My sense is if it's just for us, for the sake of investments, my opinion is that you should look at commercial. One is your yield on the property would be much higher. One is you would get obviously loans at whatever rate that you're getting, 9-10% levels. This will end up giving you at least about an 8+% yield on the property, which will basically so whatever capital appreciation that you will eventually manage out of it after holding out for a few years, you would be able to make a far better return. For the residential property to really make a decent amount of returns, you need, the rental capacity of a rental yield on a residential property is hardly anything. It's about 1 to 1.5% to about 2.5%. So one has to really look at capital appreciation to really make any returns on a residential property, which in the next couple of years will really be muted. So at the moment, if it's at the the option is between commercial and residential, and it's only for investment, then commercial definitely will be far more preferred. However, the one thing that I would obviously look at, advise looking at closely is the undivided share in that. It's about 1,200 odd square feet that you're looking at. Undivided would means that it is virtual space, and therefore Puravankara will possibly manage the entire leasing process for you. To a larger client, to a large, they will combine these holdings and lease it out. So that needs to be looked at on what these terms are. So look at that carefully, and if the terms are decent, then hopefully it should give you far better returns than a residential property in the next 2 to 3 years.
I was just going to ask you that question, the undivided share. Now, you said look at what the terms are, if these terms are reasonable. Now, what are reasonable terms in these things? Because, it's not very often that retail investors actually choose to invest in commercial property, in A-grade commercial space. So, what is it that Darshan should be looking out for?
Retail investors will largely get these opportunities only in a virtual manner, especially because in cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, which are largely driven by IT sector and not by commercial sector per se, the leasing out, the deals for leasing out, the transaction sizes are far larger. And therefore 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 square feet don't really make any sense if you hold it separately. In a city like Mumbai or in Delhi, where there are other sectors, like for example smaller offices that consultancy, for example, can take, or other financial sector, etc., which can hold these smaller offices, or lawyers or CAs, etc., who don't want very, very large spaces. Those can actually make decent use of this. But in the area that Puravankara is building this, which is High Tech City 2, there's largely going to be IT space. So one can really partake in these opportunities only if one goes for virtual spaces. Now, looking at that limitation in mind, what best that one can look at when investing in these? There are obviously the overall leasing will be handled by the developer, but one needs to look at the terms and conditions. There should be some say in the overall thing with the investor per se. And so what if they're not able to lease it for some time? Do they get any compensation? So for example, a lot of developers promise some kind of a return on it, even if they're not able to lease it out for quite some time. So whether those returns are reasonable or not, or for that matter, if it if it gets leased out and then gets for example vacated early, then what happens? So all those terms have to be looked at. They have to be practical and reasonable, and should take care of a retail investor. Should not be that it should not be what for example, a large developer with larger clout and ability to use the legal
Right.
system, etc., should not bulldoze smaller retail investors with the terms and conditions.
Exactly.
So
So
that's all. I mean,
essentially-
it has to be practical,
Right.
reasonable. This is the only way that retail guys can look into it.
Right. So Darshan, essentially you need to read through that agreement very, very closely before you sign on the dotted line. Very important things that you need to remember, since it is undivided share, which we assume means that Purvankara will be leasing out that particular space. You will need to check with them as to what happens. Like Mudassir just said, what happens if the property is not leased out for a particular point in time, or if the tenant walks out before the lease is complete. So you need to check out on all of that. You need to ensure that your returns are taken care of, your returns from that particular property, the rentals that you're supposed to be receiving, those are safeguarded, and only then you should actually go ahead and sign. I would like to take this one step further and tell you that this is probably the kind of deal that for which you should call in a professional. It's best if you get a property consultant to actually looking at those papers and then go ahead and sign on the dotted line. Moving on, we have Yash Chaturvedi, who's called in from Gurgaon. Yash, how can we help you?
Good evening, Kavita. My query is regarding an investment which I made about 6-7 years ago in with an HDIL rehabilitation project, which is in Kurla East. This
Okay.
is off the Priyadarshini Circle. And this project has moved very slow, and though now they have completed maybe 90% of the project, there's one tower which is yet to be completed. Completion certificate when unlikely soon. I made this investment about 4,700, and I am likely to get a return if I sell now of about 9,000 rupees. Considering this location is very central, and what are the prospects? Should I hold on to this property, or should I exit and maybe make an investment elsewhere?
Okay, Mudassir, HDIL Kurla East, should he hold on to this? 4,700 is what he entered at, and he is saying that he could get a return of around 9,000 rupees per square foot on that particular property. What should he do?
See, obviously, HDIL is facing issues in terms of cash flows, etc., and therefore the projects are delayed. My sense is it's been 6-7 years. You're getting a decent appreciation already. My sense is you should look at exiting out if you're getting an option at the moment. Look at some other properties with developers that are having a far better track record in terms of deliveries, etc. But my sense is that you should be able to get a slightly better price than what you're quoting at the moment. My sense is it should be upwards of 10,000. However, markets are what they are at the moment. See what best you can get. And my suggestion would be to definitely exit out. I don't expect any major price appreciations here in the next couple of years. Best is if you're reinvesting in a property, get out and invest in a better developer where there are better chances of timely deliveries, etc. happening.
Right, and Yash, like not just Mudassir pointed out, experts have been routinely telling this on our channel that this is not a market to be selling in. It's not really a seller's market. So in such a market, if you are getting an offer, where a person is willing to pay around 9,000 rupees per square foot for a property that you bought at 4,700 rupees, you're probably better off exiting. And those are the prices of Kurla East for you, though. Prices are averaging 13,433 rupees per square foot. But do be warned, this is an average price. This tries to encapsulate the entire micro market, and also this includes property that is ready to move in. This includes ready possession property as well. Your property, the one that we are talking about, is under construction, like you yourself pointed out, has been delayed. So you're probably better off exiting the property and reinvesting your gains in some other property. Moving on to a question from our website. This comes in from Biju Chetri. He says that he lives in a rented house in Gurgaon and is planning to buy a 2 BHK in Gurgaon with a budget of 20 to 25 lakh rupees. He wants you to suggest localities that he can look at. 20 to 25 lakh rupee budget, Mudassir, isn't that a little on the lower side for Gurgaon?
For regular projects, yes, it is quite on the lower side. My suggestion is that if that's the budget that Biju is looking at, then affordable housing projects under the Haryana affordable housing policy is something that one can look at.
Like he was just pointing out, Biju, you're probably better off looking at affordable housing projects in Haryana. These are projects, of course, that have been launched by the Haryana government itself. And from what we understand, you can the larger configurations in these projects, from what we know, are priced at around 21 lakh rupees. So this is something that you can look at. However, B1, these are projects that the Haryana government essentially is allotting the land that they are allotting to private developers and getting it construction. So you will need to see, take a look at the timelines before you make a decision. In the meanwhile, let's take Viral's question. He's written in through email. Now he says that he's planning to invest in a 1 BHK with a budget of 35 lakh rupees. He's looking at Taloja Phase 2 in Navi Mumbai. He wants to know if it is safe to invest here. Is it safe, Taloja Phase 2? Mudassir, what would you say?
See, overall, Navi Mumbai as a destination has worked quite well in the last few years. Overall, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of social infrastructure, in terms of jobs, in terms of a lot of these projects getting delivered, etc. Navi Mumbai has fared quite well. I think the quality of life there for most residents in terms of living, working, traveling, with the planned infrastructure is quite decent. Taloja is also one of the newer areas in the extended Navi Mumbai area after Kharghar. So it's quite, I mean, a lot of developers have started with projects out there in the phase 2 as well. I think it's a decent area, in terms of further growth projects, growth prospects in terms of infrastructure coming in. I think CITCO has planned it quite decently well with rail and metro infrastructure coming in that side. In terms of jobs and employment per se, a lot of in the Trans-Thane belt or the TTC belt, etc., is something which where a lot of companies are coming up with opportunities there. So I think overall, as an area, Navi Mumbai will stand out quite well. And that is where a lot of infrastructure improvements, social infrastructure improvements, as well as employment improvements are going to come in. So it should work out to be a safe investment for Viral.
Right, Viral, and if you can look at the chart that we're showing you, 4,434 rupees per square foot is what prices are averaging around in the Taloja region, which means that you should get something hopefully within your budget. You will have to look for it, that flat though. However, the verdict is essentially this, that Taloja is benefiting from the spillover effect of the Kharghar market. Also, a lot of jobs coming in. There's a lot of investment happening in the Taloja belt, which means once jobs come in, you should see rental demand go up, and you should also see prices increase. Prices right now, though, are down 2%, but that is what is also happening in the larger market, where prices have largely stayed flat. We have Sandeep Tezad now, who's called in from Pune. Sandeep, how can we help you?
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to know about flats. Means my budget is 40 lakhs. I'm looking for in Hinjewadi, Pune area. I'm working for Infosys, so I'm interested in Hinjewadi nearby area.
Okay, he works in Hinjewadi. He works for Infosys in Hinjewadi. Wants a flat close to his office. What would you suggest? 40 lakh budget?
I would say one should look at ready or nearing ready possession properties. At the moment, I can suggest two options in a 40 lakh odd budget. You can look at Paranjpe, Blue Ridge, which you get properties in the range of about 784 to about 1360 odd square feet. Prices in that vicinity for this particular project would be roughly about 5,400 rupees a square feet. This could be one option that one can look at. The other is Kolte Patil's Life Republic. This is slightly more expensive. This is already in possession and a resale property. So one can look at somewhere in the range of about 7,000 rupees a square feet, but you'll have a much smaller flat available in that particular thing. So these two options one can look at in that area which are ready or nearing ready possession.
There you go. Look for a ready property or one nearing possession. Moving on, we have Rohit Gupta who sent in a question through the website www.mbnow.in. Now he says that he's planning to buy a 2 or 3 BHK flat in Noida, sector 75 or 78. He has a budget of 55 lakh rupees. He's looking at ready to move it or close to completion projects in these localities. Mudassir, what are your recommendations?
So 75 to 78 good sectors, very central location for Noida. At the moment I can look at 3 options that he can look at. One is Sikka Karmic Greens, which is in 78. This is available at around 4,700 rupees in that range, and options between 930 square feet to about 1,200 odd square feet. One can also look at Nimbus's Hyde Park, which is also available at a similar rate of about 4,700. Options of about 1,000 to 1,100 square feet available. And in 75, one can look at Max Bliss's White House, which is available about 4,600 rupees a square feet, and option sizes between 1,100 to 1,200 square feet. So these 3 options, which are almost either ready possession or very near to possession, you can look at in this particular sector.
Right, and with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Property Hotline. Mudassir Zaidi, thank you very much for coming in and answering all those questions. And here's what we would recommend. It is a buyer's market out there. So if you're in the market to buy a home or in this Diwali, go out, look for all those deals, make use of the Diwali weekend. And if you have any questions, do come back to us. We'll get the country's top experts to answer each and every one of them. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned to Magicbricks Now.
You can watch live TV on our website mbnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Magicbricks Now. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at Magicbricks Now. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/Magicbricks Now.